Your competitor just lost a $20,000 sale because they couldn't explain why the customer's master bedroom is always freezing. And you're about to learn exactly how to win that deal every single time. Here's what separates salespeople who close at 30% from those who close at 70% in residential HVAC. It's not smoother talking, better closing techniques, or cheaper prices. It's system design knowledge that lets you diagnose problems in the home, explain exactly why they exist, and present solutions backed by actual engineering instead of guesswork. I'm going to show you the exact framework that turns system design expertise into closed deals and premium prices. I've trained hundreds of HVAC salespeople just last year, and I can spot the difference between average performers and top performance in about 5 minutes. The average salesperson shows up, measures some stuff, quotes equipment, and hopes the customer picks them. The top producer walks in like a doctor making a diagnosis. They ask better questions, spot problems the customer didn't even know existed, and present solutions that feel inevitable instead of optional. That difference? It's system design knowledge. Let me break down exactly how this works. All right, think about your typical sales call right now. You show up at the house, customer wants a new system, you take some measurements, look at the existing equipment, maybe ask about a comfort issue or two, then you go back to your truck and generate a quote. You're selling equipment, a box with a number on it. And when you sell equipment, you're competing with every other contractor in your market on the same terms, brand and price. That's a race you cannot win because there's always someone willing to go cheaper. Now, imagine a completely different approach. You show up at the same house, but instead of just measuring and quoting, you conduct a system design consultation. You ask specific questions about comfort. Which rooms are too hot or too cold? When do the problems happen? How long has this been going on? You're gathering data, not just making small talk. Then you start investigating. You look at window sizes and orientation. You check insulation. You evaluate the existing ductwork for obvious problems like undersized returns or poorly located supplies. You measure the home properly for a load calc. You're not just looking at equipment, you're analyzing the entire system. And here's where it gets interesting. As you're doing this, you're educating the customer about what you're finding. You point out that the south-facing windows create massive solar gain in the summer. You explain how undersized return ducts restrict airflow and kill efficiency. You show them why their existing 3-ton system was probably oversized and why bigger isn't better. See, you're demonstrating expertise that none of your competitors showed. And customers can tell the difference between someone who knows their stuff and someone who's just taking measurements to generate a quote. Let me tell you about a salesperson I coached last year. We'll call him Sam. Sam was struggling, closing maybe 35% of his quotes, getting beat on price constantly. Sam's a good guy. He knew equipment pretty well, but his sales presentations were basically equipment comparisons. He'd show customers good, better, best options and hope they pick something. We trained Sam on manual J load calculations and basic duct evaluation. Not making him an engineer, just giving him enough knowledge to spot common problems and then explain them clearly. His sales approach completely changed. He started every appointment by explaining that he was going to do a complete system evaluation, not just an equipment quote. He'd spend time actually analyzing the home, then he'd sit down with the customer and walk them through his findings. He'd say, here's your actual heating and cooling load by room. Here's why your master bedroom is always cold. The supply duct is undersized and there's almost no insulation in that wall. Never mind the tiny return. Here's why your energy bills are high. Your current system is oversized and short cycling. Sam's close rate went to 65% in about 4 months. His average ticket increased by almost $7,000 because he was uncovering and solving problems that customers didn't even know existed. And here's the kicker. He was charging more than his competitors and customers were thanking him for it. So, why does system design knowledge close more sales? Let me break it down into specific mechanisms. First, it builds instant credibility. When you walk into a home and start talking about heat load calcs, duct design, and building science, you sound different than every other contractor. You sound like an expert, and people want to buy from experts, not salespeople. Think about it in terms of going to see a doctor. The doctor who just prescribes pills without examining you doesn't inspire confidence. But the doctor who asks detailed questions, runs tests, and explains exactly what's going wrong and why, you trust that doctor. The same principle applies in HVAC sales. Second, system design knowledge lets you uncover problems the customer didn't even know they had. Most homeowners know they're uncomfortable, but they don't know why. They think it's just about their house, or they blame the old equipment. When you can pinpoint exactly why the master bedroom is 10 degrees colder than the living room, you're solving a mystery that they lived with for years. That reminds me, I worked with the salesperson who made this his signature move. He'd walk through the home, identify specific comfort complaints, and then explain the engineering reason behind each one. By the time he presented the solution, customers felt like he understood their home better than they did. That's powerful. Okay, third, it differentiates you from the competition. When a customer gets 3 quotes, most of them look basically the same. There's a brand name, a tonnage, efficiency rating, and price. So how do they choose? Usually price, unless you've given them a reason to choose differently. But when your quote includes an actual load calculation, a duct eval report, and specific recommendation based on engineering, you're not comparing apples to apples anymore. You're presenting something none of your competitors have provided. Even if you're more expensive, you've demonstrated value that they can't get elsewhere. Fourth, system design knowledge justifies premium pricing. When you can show a customer exactly what's wrong with their current system and precisely what it takes to fix it, price objections drop dramatically. You're not just asking them to spend $15,000 on a new air conditioner. You're asking them to invest in a properly engineered comfort system that solves specific problems in their home. See, I've seen salespeople increase their average ticket by thousands of dollars just by adding duct modifications and air sealing, which proper system evaluation uncovered. See, those aren't upsells. They're legitimate solutions to real problems that competitors never even identified. And fifth, it increases confidence, both yours and the customer's. When you understand system design, you know your recommendations are correct. You're not guessing at equipment sizing or hoping the existing ducts will work. That confidence comes through in your presentation. You're not hoping the customer buys. You're confidently recommending the right solution. And customers pick up on that confidence. They feel more comfortable signing because you've removed uncertainty. You've shown them exactly what they need and why. Here's what this looks like in practice. Let's walk through a real sales situation and see how system design knowledge changes the conversation. So, customer calls, wants a quote on replacing their 20-year-old system. The average salesperson shows up, looks at the old equipment, sees it's a 3-ton unit, assumes they need another 3-ton unit, measures square footage to confirm, quotes a new 3-ton system with minimal ductwork, and leaves a proposal. A salesperson with system design knowledge shows up and takes a different approach. They ask about current comfort issues. Customer mentions the upstairs bedrooms are always hot in the summer. The salesperson starts investigating why. Looks at the ductwork layout, finds all the upstairs supplies are on a single 8-inch trunk line and it's clearly undersized. Notices the attic insulation is minimal, sees the upstairs return is tiny. Now they run a quick manual J load calc on their tablet. Turns out the home only needs a 2.5-ton system, not 3. The current system isn't undersized, it's oversized, which is why it short cycles and never dehumidifies properly. They sit down with the customer and explain their findings. Your current single-stage system is actually too big, which causes comfort problems. But the bigger issue is your duct system. It can't deliver enough air upstairs, which is why these rooms are always hot. And your attic insulation is below today's standard, so you're fighting massive heat gain. Here's what you need to do. Right-sized equipment, complete duct redesign for upstairs to deliver proper airflow, and attic air sealing and insulation to reduce the load. Yes, it costs more than just replacing the equipment, but it actually solves your comfort problem instead of replacing a system that was never designed correctly in the first place. See, that customer's buying because you identified and explained the actual problem, not just quoted equipment. And when they get 2 other quotes that just offer 3-ton systems with no ductwork, your proposal looks like the one that makes sense. Now, here's the challenge that most salespeople face. They hear this and they think it sounds great, but they don't know actually how to do it. They're not engineers. They don't understand manual J. Duct design seems complicated. Here's the truth. You don't need to be an engineer to use system design knowledge in sales. I'm not one. You need to understand the fundamentals, what manual J is and why it matters, how to spot common duct problems, why building characteristics affect load. Basic stuff that you can learn in a few weeks and get better at with practice. Of course, you start with load calculations. Use software. It's not expensive. You input basic information about the home, insulation, windows, and orientation. It calculates the actual heat loss and the cooling load. With the right software, it takes about 30 minutes once you're comfortable with it. That load calc becomes a powerful sales tool because you can show customers exactly what their home needs instead of guessing. Next, learn how to spot duct problems. Undersized returns are everywhere. Poorly designed supply distribution is common. Leaking ducts waste energy. You don't need to be a duct design expert to identify obvious problems and explain why they matter. Of course, be sure to understand equipment selection. Not just efficiency ratings, but also why certain equipment matches certain applications better. Single stage versus two stage versus variable speed. When heat pumps make sense versus straight AC and keeping gas. I would argue always they make sense. But matching equipment to actual load and duct capacity is what matters. These aren't complicated concepts. They're fundamental HVAC knowledge that separates professionals from box changers. And in sales, they separate consultants from quote providers. Over the years, I've watched salespeople transform their careers by investing time in learning system design. They go from struggling to hit quota to becoming top producers. They go from competing on price to commanding premium prices. And they go from hoping customers choose them to knowing exactly why customers should choose them. And here's what really matters. This isn't manipulation or sales tactics. This is genuine expertise that helps customers make better decisions. You're not tricking anyone. You're providing value that improves their outcome. That's ethical selling that you should feel good about. I want you to think about your last 10 quotes that didn't close. How many of those were you actually the cheapest? Probably not many. You lost on perceived value. The customer didn't see enough difference between you and the cheaper competitors to justify your price. System design knowledge creates that difference. It makes you worth more because you're delivering more. Better analysis, better recommendations, better results. Customers will pay for that when they can see it and understand it. So here's my challenge to you. On your next 5 sales calls, don't just quote equipment. Actually analyze the home. Run a load calc. Look at the ducts critically. Identify specific problems. Explain them to the customer and present engineered solutions instead of equipment quotes. Now, of course, there's a lot of variables, but I can almost guarantee that your close rate will improve. It's not because you've learned fancy new sales techniques, but because you're delivering actual value that your competitors are not. System design knowledge isn't just nice to have for HVAC sales. It's the competitive advantage that lets you close more deals at higher prices while actually serving customers better. That's how you build a career worth having in the industry. Please, watch the 15-point system design audit now to find exactly where your sales process needs this and how to implement it immediately. I'll see you soon.